Welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Ollie Statham, and today we'll be looking at some of the worst creepypastas that I could find. Be warned, some of these stories will make you piss yourself from laughter. Don't watch this video if you're sensitive to blood, because trust me, these stories will make your brain turn to mush and leak out of your nose. Without further ado, let's dive into the first story. What better way to start a video about shit creepypastas than a lost episode creepypasta? How many times does it have to be said? Nothing can make Family Guy scary. A mysterious Family Guy episode. It's a surprise I've seen this when I was at least a young teenager, most likely at least 14 years old, but I've remembered watching an episode of Family Guy that still sparked my interest to this day. It was around 2006, and it's still one of the most weirdest episodes of Family Guy to this day. It was a season 4 episode of Family Guy that was titled, Peter Goes for Some Food. This is a really odd title for a Family Guy episode. I watched this episode when it was broadcasting. Anyway, let's get to this really strange episode of Family Guy. The episode starts with the usual credits as always, as your usual famous theme song. The episode starts like your Family Guy episode, except there wasn't any music. I really didn't mind no music, even though it was kinda strange. The episode began with Peter and Lois debating on what they should have for dinner. Chris and Meg wanted some hot dogs, while Peter and Lois wanted your daily normal dinner. Brian didn't care about dinner, and they chose your daily dinner. This made Chris and Meg disappointed. It cuts to the dinner room, where Peter and Lois began having some ham and broccoli for dinner. Then cuts to a cutaway gag of Captain Jack Sparrow literally smashing a computer with a baseball bat. It cuts back to Lois being disappointed that there wasn't any ham to the fridge. Peter then has enough money to go to some diner right near their house. They went to the car and drove towards the diner called Free Food. The diner looks really nice, to be honest with you. It has nice decorations and so on. However, what was odd was just Peter, Chris, Stewie and Brian. Lois and Meg went missing all of a sudden. The waitress comes to the dinner table with Peter, Chris, Stewie and Brian. They chose an order of food which contained burgers and other stuff. Peter says, yeah, I'll choose some cow with a flat cap. All of a sudden, the waitress shoots a cow out and Peter gets injured. It cuts towards the diner outside and back inside with Peter and the family. They're waiting for the burgers to be ready. When the burgers were done, Peter, Chris, Stewie and Brian are pretty excited since they waited for a while. When Peter eats a burger, he gets really confused on what he was eating. What's in these things? Said Peter. Brian responded, doesn't seem that bad to me. Tastes like your average burger. What really grossed me out was the fact of how Peter described what the burger tasted like. He thought the burger tasted like human flesh with a taste of some coin. What's really disgusting was the fact I could see an eye sticking out when Chris took the bite of the burger. What really creeps me out, it winked towards the camera. Brian's thought the burger tasted like an actual burger. The creepiest part is the fact Brian Griffin is a dog. Oh god, what did I just eat? Said Peter as he looks into the burger and sees what appears to be an actual finger inside the burger. I didn't see the finger, but Peter did mention what he just had found. The waitress then comes towards Peter, Chris, Stewie and Brian and hits them all in the head with some beer balls. This leads to a first-person camera angle towards Peter getting dragged by this man towards some basement. It cuts back to the out view of the family. I get to see the man that walked inside. He had some blonde fringe-up hair, a blue autumn jacket, a black beanie, blue jeans, mustache, and was a Caucasian man. He introduced himself as a man named Robert Joseph Dilly. Robert Dilly explains to the family by telling them he was a serial killer who has killed 11 people by either poisoning or strangling and turning them into burgers. Dilly then tells him to lure his victims towards his restaurant. This man, however, did actually manage to creep me out. His voice was really, really raspy and had these really creepy eyes that looked like a snake. His method of turning humans into burgers really reminds me of serial killer Joe Metheny, the killer who turned people into burgers. I'm assuming this is what the serial killer of the episode was inspired by. Robert Dilly also admitted to being a 42-year-old man and actually had a backstory. This was pretty much a flashback from the show. The flashback starts with Robert Dilly getting hit in the head with a baseball bat at age 5. His head was severely injured and was taken to the hospital from what happened. The next scene cuts to him bringing a stuffed teddy bear to his room at around age 8 and carves the living shit out of the teddy bear's stomach, and this was really, really crazy. It cuts to him putting the bear in some toxic waste barrel. The next scene at age 11 is when Dilly randomly has a wet dream of a man dying. Yeah, that was pretty gross on hearing that part. He also had joined a re-election campaign, one time at age 26. The flashback then cuts to him owning the restaurant at age 31. His first victim was a man named Martin Sotos. He lured him into his basement and shoved a bottle of beer with poison in him to kill him. We really don't get to see him making it into a burger, but we do get to see him die. The next scene was the second victim, Craig Weston. Craig was also lured and was killed by being poisoned by Dilly, except we do get to see his body being turned into a burger this time. It was a silhouette of Robert Dilly putting his corpse into a meat grinder. Those sounds of bone crushing really made me cringe a little. It cuts to the rest of the victims for a few minutes, and then it cuts back to Peter, Chris, Stewie and Brian all tied together. It seems as though Robert Dilly was really excited to kill the family. That was, until he was shot by Joe Swanson, and he would then rescue the entire family. Unfortunately, Joe said to the family that Meg and Lois were killed by Robert Dilly. The family really didn't care for some strange reason. And here's what I meant when it sparked my interest. After the episode ended, it cuts to some photo blocked by Stewie Griffin's head. While Stewie's head disappears, it cuts to some man that has words that all of a sudden appears. The words write out, Dalibor Winchester. There really weren't any credits, just pictures of random people. Note, I wasn't too scared of the episode, but the pictures really had me go down the rabbit hole, and I'll tell you why after the 2 other pictures were transferred. The second image was a second man with the words Keith Lenderhart, and then the last man had the titles as James Gorda. These credits lasted at least 4 to 5 minutes. It's the fact that these people never, and I mean never, ever existed. I did search on my computer and never saw any evidence of Dalibor Winchester, Keith Lenderhart, or James Gorda. I tried looking up some news source or some backstory and never got to find anything. I tried to look these people up in detail, there wasn't anything. Please note, these weren't members of the production of Family Guy. However, this gets deeper, and that's because if these were missing people, a crime investigation would be launched as soon as possible and would be all over the news in my area. The people never have a background, and they somehow get photos only shown on a TV. I tried looking up this Family Guy episode of these 3 guys, but never found anything. It makes you think, who the fuck were these guys, and did they ever exist with some background? The creepiest part is, Dalibor Winchester and James Gorda looking straight into my soul. This gets me some really eerie vibes on 2 out of 3 people who weren't even real. They look like they want to kill you, and I could feel it. I could feel them looking straight at me. I could feel them as they kept watching what I do and where I go. I feel like I'm getting watched by 2 fictional people who somehow had images of themselves. That was awful. This next story is a story about Slenderman, but not just any Slenderman story. This is the Slender Theory. Now, I never really cared about Slenderman in the first place, so let's see what it's like. A Slender Theory. You are familiar with the notorious Slenderman, eh? Well, here's my theory on my studies, but before that, let me introduce myself in case the Slenderman takes me and cuts this page off the Wikia. The Slender Man, a tall and faceless man with 1,000 limbs or tentacles as others call it. They have been comparing and describing similar mythical creatures to him. What really gave me an idea of who or what the Slender Man is that black suit. A suit seemingly familiar of that of the Men in Black. I thought that the USA government might have sent a man to do a special job to secure an alien species that landed on Earth unnoticed, and the alien took advantage of the human host and took his body, consuming him and used his body. You may have been wondering about the old stories back in the hundreds. Maybe the same species of alien landed and took a man coincidentally in black, or the creature just likes dark colors. Yeah, that's it. There are some rules when it comes to writing a creepypasta. One of the main ones is never use the word creepypasta in the creepypasta. Ruins immersion, just don't do it. So, this one is titled A True Minecraft Creepypasta. As many of you know, there's a creative game called Minecraft. It's fun, it's cool, and you can create a lot of things. I greatly enjoy it. But in this game can be some very strange and dangerous things and creatures. Yesterday morning, approximately 10:30 AM, I was starting up Minecraft, excited to play it as I always am. I logged in, and everything was normal. I went to single player mode and I went to one of my creative maps called I Like Trains. Yes, I do love ASDF movie on YouTube, and I made it about 4 months ago. But before entering that world, I went to a survival map. I was bored as fuck, so I drowned myself by building a gigantic river. After having fun killing myself, I entered I Like Trains. Everything was normal by now. It was bright and sunny, and it was fun. I travelled around it for about 5 minutes. Eventually, I stopped wandering around, but that was a mistake. A horrible mistake. As soon as I stopped, I saw a grey humanoid creature holding arrows. It kept firing the arrows at me, but it had no face at all. It was just a grey figure with a bow and arrow. Okay then. Luckily it's creative mode and I cannot die, I thought. I walked around for a bit, and it kept following me. This time, it was entirely black, but it was not firing arrows at me. I got creeped out, so I ran around the island swiftly. Although it was Minecraft, I couldn't go too fast, but I ran as fast as I could. It kept following me and started firing arrows at my character once again. I eventually thought that the only escape was to drown myself, but it was creative mode, I couldn't die. Despite that, I swam very deep in a long river. I went almost as deep as I could. I thought I lost the strange creature, but I was wrong, very wrong. It followed me all the way in the river. By that time, I was as scared as I would if Marilyn Manson came into my room and started fingering my body. The graphics started screwing up and the game started lagging. The graphics turned red, black and grey. I couldn't move. I could barely see one single thing at that point. I was even more frightened. After a while, Minecraft stopped responding, so it was stuck. Then, when it was working properly again, the creature turned into a giant black and red thing. It was grabbing me, from what I could see. It just sort of, resembled Slender Man. Another Slender Man story. I'm aware that there are some creatures that have looked like Slender Man that have appeared in Minecraft. 1 solid minute later, the screen was filled with red. Nothing else but red. It was like that for exactly 5 minutes. After that, it turned black. A minute later, the death screen appeared, saying that I died. I was confused. I was in creative mode, meaning that you cannot die. I was extremely frightened. I decided to play it brave and press respawn. That was a really bad decision. I ended up in the same river, but this time there were more than one creatures, all dressed in red and black. I had no idea what to do. I couldn't even move. I was stuck in a nightmare. It was raining and snowing. The river was overflowing, although I'm not even sure if that can happen in Minecraft. 5 minutes later, all the creatures came up to me and grabbed me. After that, I'm not sure what happened. was that I was somewhere in the river, about to die. I quickly pressed escape with the map and Minecraft. After this thing occurred, I never opened Minecraft again. I'm sure that if I did, the creature would be dead. Not even ask what that was, but it was just boring. This next story is a bit of an eyesore, but I'll try my best to read it without dying. Killer Kitty. Violet Fox was a 12-year-old girl, blonde hair that went over her right eye, blue eyes. It was a late evening. Violet was playing with her cat named Luna. Her friend Summer was over there too. Wanna play some video games? Violet Summer asked her. No, maybe later. How about we take a walk? Summer suggested. Sure, Violet smiled. Let's go. Violet rushed along. They walked. Jeez. I don't think I can read this one, I'm sorry. This next one, I think I'll be able to read it. It's called Machow. I remember the day I met Machow. He stood there, a crap-eating grin on his, no, its face. Whatever foul copycat lurked behind that smile, I ain't fully aware of. But the only thing I knew was that I had to run. The creature looked at me, its demonic eyes resembling that of a fly. It leaped forward. It didn't try to kill me instantly. It put its face against mine. Its eyes locked on mine, and soon it started to change. Eventually, it resembled me. It knocked me out, dragging me away. I woke up in hospital, my leg in a brace. The doctor told me that I'd been assaulted by a psycho who drove off in their car. I tried to explain that thing wasn't a human, but they dismissed it as a result of the hit. I sat there in bed all day, and at night he came, a silhouette in the window. He climbed through. The creature shed its fake visage and leaped on me. I could not comprehend its true form. It was almost as if I was coated in static. I kicked and knocked it off me. The creature fled as the doctor entered the room. He's in karmic arrest, she screamed just before I fainted. When I woke up, I was in a wrecked emergency room. Two tall creatures similar to the one that had caused this dilemma stood in front of me, whilst behind me, Machow stood. The two nurses had the name tags Sammy and Rich. Soon, I lay there as they performed surgery on me. They had a feast on anything spare with stuff like the liver that could grow back. When I woke up, they had left a note explaining this. It read, "Thanks for donating us your fat, liver, etc. Winky face." All I could do was be thankful that they didn't permanently put me into karmic arrest. But I questioned why he was able to track me. Was there someone behind this mess? I felt like I was being stalked for months. Was this predatory beast the one doing that? The last story I'll be telling you tonight is called Mario's Coma. I'm sure this one will be really, really interesting. Hello, I'm Noah, and I'll be telling you how I got this sick, twisted game. One day, I went to GameStop and I decided to get Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo DS. I got it for $10, which was strange. I went home and then I played the game. Everything was normal, and yeah, I played with Mario's head. It was fun now, even though I did that in childhood. I went to the rec room, but something was a bit strange. None of the characters had their minigames. Since it was brand new, I made a file and everything went normal until I reached Bowser's level. I had 5 lives and 12 stars. I went in and saw a picture of Luigi, and he looked very bloody. He had no eyes, his intestines were coming out of his stomach, and what was scariest of all, his gloves and hand had bite marks on them, and Luigi's fingers and hands were bloody fingertips. Just blood red was all that I could see. He had gunshot wounds in both of his hands. Then it changed into my family. That was odd, since I didn't know my family was in that picture. I thought it would be Princess Peach, except something was strange about my family's picture. They looked exactly like Luigi. Also, they stared right into my soul. I could feel an ominous feeling around me at that time. When I went into Bowser's level, Something was strange too. The music was a bit more high-pitched and it hurt my ears. Also, the world sky was a bit more black than before whenever I completed the course. Of course, I encountered Bowser, but he was different. Bowser's skin was all black except his head was white with two bloody red pupils staring at me. Bowser charged at me, and I cannot even get behind him until I got knocked out by Bowser's flames. The screen was static for 4 seconds. Then it showed a picture of Mario, burned but alive. Dr. Toad said, "Mario is in a coma right now and I don't think he'll be waking up." Peach screamed, "No!" in a high-pitched sound wave from my DS speakers. Wait, let me try that again. Peach screamed, "No!" in a high-pitched sound wave from my DS speakers. I thought this was awesome at the time. It had a new ending to it and a new tingle. What? After that, the screen went black for 5 seconds. Then I saw Mario. He was even worse than the family picture of Luigi. I was so horrified. I couldn't speak. He looked worse, and in bloody capitals it said, "Mario died," in bloody fingerprints. I was about to vomit for a second. Then something hit me in the head. I passed out. The neighbors checked me to see if I was okay. They called the ambulance and it took me to the hospital. My doctor said, "He's in a coma. I don't think he'll be waking up from his fantasy world." I was just like Mario, in a coma state. After that, in my fantasy world, something scared me so much I woke up from my coma. My doctor said, "I can't believe it. I thought he would have died from the coma." I went back home fine and lived a normal life again, except I threw the game into my attic and forgot about the game and its bad dreams. I reminded myself never to play that game again. Thank you for reading my story. I think you'll believe me because this happened to me. If you ever get this cartridge, destroy it. Noah. Holy shit, that was bad. So that just about does it for today's video. I'm not sure if I'll be making any more videos this week, but it doesn't really matter because I don't get more than like 3 views anyway. But hope you enjoyed, 3 of you watching.